Which NFL teams am I most confident will absolutely smash their win total in 2023? What's going on, BLV? It's Mitch here to give you my confidence meter for your favorite NFL team. The over, the under, my confidence in each win total for 2023. All 32 teams. Am I most confident in the over or the under for your favorite team? And where do I rank that win total on my confidence meter from most confident to least confident entering 2023? Keep in mind, I'm not trying to make these win totals even. This is what I would do if I was going to bet every win total in the NFL. Which ones would be the least confident? Which ones would I put the most money on? The must bets entering 2023. Let's break it down from the least confident to the most confident. But before I do, spike that like button. Don't forget to comment in the comment section below. Which win totals are you most confident in? If you had to bet on one win total in the NFL, over or under, which team and which total would it be? Let's go. Let's kick off my win total confidence rankings at number 32 with the win total that I'm least, not most, least confident in, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers under 9 wins. If I had to bet the Pittsburgh Steelers win total, I would slightly lean towards under 9. And it really doesn't have a lot to do with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It has a lot to do with the division. If I had to say, and I had to bet that the Steelers would go over or under 9 wins, I would probably lean towards, yes, Mike Tomlin's first ever losing season. But it's really only because I think this is the best, most talented, deepest division in all of football. I think the Browns are a good, talented football team. I think the Bengals are the Bengals with the best quarterback in the division. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are stellar and loaded. And looking at it without projecting injuries, it's hard to say that the Steelers will compete to win this division. And it's likely that they'll finish 3rd or 4th. But it's not likely, this is why it's number 32, that they'll actually have a losing season because Mike Tomlin doesn't have losing seasons. So I can understand people picking the over, but in my mind, it just doesn't make sense. It's hard to suggest or think or predict that all 4 teams will have a winning record. So I have a lot of confliction with the Steelers. I think they're improved as a roster, as a team. I think the quarterback position, Kenny Pickett, will play better this year. I like what I've seen from George Pickens in the offense throughout this offseason. The offensive line should be better, but they still do have Matt Canada. I'm highly suspect about that secondary defensively, although TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, and Minka Fitzpatrick are absolute studs. I could see the Steelers making the playoffs. I could also see the Steelers playing worse than last year if the Browns actually have a good quarterback, a pretty decent defense this year, and Lamar doesn't get injured. The Steelers should have had a losing record last year. So it's hard to judge. It's hard to debate. That is why this is number 32 in my confidence rankings. But if I had to choose, I'd have the Steelers going under 9 wins. My second least confident win total for 2023 is connected to the least confident win total, which is the Steelers. My second least is the Cleveland Browns winning over 9.5 games. Now, maybe I'm just gullible. Maybe I should have the Steelers winning over 9, and maybe I should have the Browns losing enough games to not win 10, right? Because they have to win 10 to go over. But I also see a world where the Browns are a stellar football team this year. And when you look at it on paper, it's hard to imagine that they won't be, right? Jim Schwartz comes in to coach this defense. A real adult that knows what he's doing. I respect Jim Schwartz as a football coach and a defensive mind. I think he'll get a lot out of this defensive line that now has Dalvin Tomlinson and Zadarius Smith, along with already the man, the myth, the legend, Myles Garrett. They also added depth to that position. They've got a better safety position. They've got a loaded cornerback group. The defense should be realistically much, much, much improved from last year. Deshaun Watson, even if he's not great, let's just say he's average, should probably play as well as Kenny Pickett does for Pittsburgh. And with a good defense, a great running game, a good offensive line, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, all these weapons, and Kevin Stefanski's scheme, they should be able to win 10 games, right? They should be able to flirt with the playoffs, even if Watson is kind of average and he just gets by with his athleticism, right? So I figure if I'm betting this, I'm going high end with the Browns. I figure that Watson figures it out. A guy that talented eventually figures it out, unless mentally he's just so messed up that he can't get back to where he was. But for me, the Browns, with the roster they have, if they do not win 10 games, there's going to be major changes happening with this franchise because they have too much talent to not win over 9.5 and make the playoffs, at least as a wild card team. And even at the high end, I could see this team going to AFC Championship. They have that much talent. They have the formula. They have nearly zero weaknesses on the depth chart. It's hard to imagine this team disappointing. So that's why I have them at 31, because they're the Browns. They're the Browns. Last year, it wasn't pretty from a coaching standpoint. It wasn't pretty from a quarterback standpoint. It wasn't pretty from a defense standpoint. I expect improvements. And this is why I'm so conflicted, because I think the Steelers, they're hard to pick under a 9 because Tomlin doesn't have a losing season. But at the same time, it's hard to pick the Browns under 9.5. One of these things is going to happen. I'm leaning towards the Steelers, but I have confidence in neither one. That's why they're both near the bottom of this list. The third least confident win total of 2023 is the Miami Dolphins going under 9.5. This one is a slight upgrade from the last two where I absolutely have no idea. Like, I feel like the Steelers or the Browns, one of them is going to work. One of them is going to be good. We just don't know which one, and you could argue either or. With Miami, you can see a world where they get injured and let's just be honest, their offense regresses from last year because the NFL figures it out and they figure out how to get to Tua, and this team just regresses in a really difficult division. That is kind of, to me at least, more visually obvious, or at least clear. I see it, right, happening. I feel like Mike McDaniel, as good as he was in year one, he could have brought all his tricks to the table to unlock Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and that offense. And in year two, all the defenses have studied the unique nature of the RPO game of Miami, what they were able to do to attack the intermediate level of the field with RPO concepts, something the NFL has never really seen before. And now they're able to pressure Tua, get to Tua, make him shaky, make him get off his first read, and make him a less than average quarterback, which he was good last year. But there's a world where Tua regresses to a much lesser quarterback like he looked in his first couple of seasons, and this team just isn't very good. On top of that, Jalen Ramsey's already gotten injured. Teron Armstead misses about 5 games a year. Tua already has concussion injuries. Bradley Chubb gets injured a lot. This is a very injury-prone team. The offensive line isn't very good. Outside of Waddle or Hill, who are both extremely valuable to this team's success, they don't have a lot of depth at weapon positions, just in general, running back, tight end, wide receiver. I mean, their third receivers right now, Braxton Berrios, who's a returner. So he couldn't even crack the field for the Jets. I feel like this team, it's a lot of talent everywhere, right? You've got Christian Wilkins, you've got Javon Holland, you've got Xavier Howard when he plays his best. Eventually, Jalen Ramsey will come back. They added David Long Jr. They have Jerome Baker. They have Tyreek and Waddle. They have all these guys, but like at the same time, a couple of positions are too reliant on a couple of players, and they could easily fall apart from last season and regress. They won 9 last year. Keep that in mind. So I have the under here if I were to bet either or. I just think this is too tough a division, too unstable of a team to bet the over with the Miami Dolphins. At At number 29, the fourth least confident win total pick is the New York Giants going over their win total of 7.5. I have the over because I have a lot of respect for the Giants coaching staff. I also have a ton of respect for what they've done this offseason. I feel like when you look at the Giants from last year to this year, there's obvious progression that should take place. Their offensive line should be better. They added a second-round pick. Evan Neal should get better in year 2. Andrew Thomas is a stud. Daniel Jones in year 2 under Brian Daboll should get better, right? He should be a better passer, a more explosive passer when Darren Waller is added to the team, when Paris Campbell is added to the team, when Jalen Hyatt is added to the team. Those guys could unlock Daniel Jones's downfield prowess. Saquon is a stud, and he's healthier this time around. He's not dealing with an injury. He's not coming off of anything. He's actually entering his second year of being healthy, which I think we could see prime Saquon here. And then defensively, you just traded for Isaiah Simmons. You added a marquee linebacker, which is your biggest weakness. You added a first-round corner to be your number 2 corner opposite of Dory Jackson. They have a pass rush. They have Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. They added depth to the defensive line. There's a lot of pieces here where you would say, hey, the Giants got better. There's no indication that they should get worse. The only indications are that they were very lucky last year. They won a lot of close games last year, which is very hard to repeat. Daniel Jones maybe could regress, just like based on he had his best season ever at protecting the football, all that sort of stuff last year. Maybe defenses figure out their game plan and they try to force them to throw the ball downfield and it's ineffective. And then maybe they get more injured. They get a little bit less lucky. Maybe Graham Gano doesn't kick the game-winning kick every single time. Maybe the coaching stardom and stardust kind of wears off. But at the same time, I think it's unlikely that they don't win at least 8 games here because their coaching's too good, and I think their roster's good enough, and I think they just know how to win games. They're well schooled, and I believe in Daniel Jones. So for those reasons, I lean towards the over, but it's not with a lot of confidence because I really like the other teams in this division. At number 28, the 5th least confident win total of 2023 is the Chargers going under 9.5. The reason it's lacking confidence is because I don't want to bet against Justin Herbert. I just don't want to. I understand that Herbert haters will definitely comment, Mitch, no problem. Bet against him. He doesn't win games. Well, okay, but this could be the best Chargers team that he's ever had on paper. I understand that they got injured a lot last year, and that's kind of fogging up the scene of what happened last year. But this team did win more than 9.5 last year, and that was with injuries to Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, especially Joey Bosa, numerous players across the roster. Rashawn Slater was out for a lot of the season. So just imagine if Rashawn Slater plays a lot of the year, Joey Bosa plays a lot of the year with Khalil Mack. They have J.C. Jackson. They have Mike and Keenan. They have Quentin Johnston now. Like, imagine if all these guys are actually playing at least a majority of the season, and that could mix for a 10-win season. At the same time, I felt like the Chargers were worse than their record last year. Like, I felt like they got away with a lot of wins they shouldn't have won. I felt like that some of that's a Herbert thing, but I also feel like I don't trust the coaching. I don't trust Brandon Staley whatsoever in close games. They do have to deal with the Chiefs in their division. The Broncos should be a better team with Sean Payton, or at least a smarter team. The Raiders, I can't imagine will be any worse, and they struggled against them a little bit last year. The AFC is very difficult, so I just feel like if there's one of these teams that made it last year that's going to miss this year, it could be the Chargers. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. It just happens to teams, and I do feel the Chargers lack depth in a lot of positions. So if they do get their injuries, as they typically do, Keenan Allen's getting older, Austin Eckler's getting older, they may struggle because of that. But that's why I'm so conflicted, because I see it either way. I could see the Chargers winning 10 or 11, without a doubt. I could see the Chargers winning 9, just missing, and you losing this bet. And ultimately, that's why I lean towards them being 9-8, 8-9, missing the playoffs. But man, I don't want to do it. So that's why it's lower on this list. At number 27, a happier win total here. The Las Vegas Raiders going over 6 I'm leaning towards the Raiders over 6.5 just for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's Josh McDaniels' second season. So this means this is the second year for McDaniels to install his offense, to get used to the players, and then also a second year for the defensive coordinator, second year for install, to add layers to what they did in year one. Secondly, this is a team that had a lot of leads last year and could have easily won 8, 9, 10 games, but they blew a lot of games in the fourth quarter. And some of that had to do with the quarterback. They let go of Derek Carr. They brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, and actually the backup, the rookie O'Connell, is looking pretty good too. So even if Jimmy gets hurt, I feel decent enough that O'Connell can go in there and actually be somewhat productive. I do believe Josh Jacobs will come back and once again be one of the leading rushers in the league. And when I think about the Raiders, I just feel like they'll be in a lot of games because how good and effective their running game is, how good their offensive line is, how effective and good their offense is. I think Devontae Adams is a stud. Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, I think could have a bounce back year. Love what they did at tight end this offseason with Hooper, Mayer from Notre Dame. I feel like Darren Waller being a loss is not a loss because he didn't really play last year, and that's what people kind of overlook. And defensively, I just don't think they can be worse. Like, they added a first-round defensive end. Max Crosby is a stud. I don't imagine that their secondary will be any worse than last year. Again, the coaching has another year to build off of what happened last year and fix some of those things. So I feel like the Raiders were unlucky to not win over 6.5 last year. And there's some positives leaning into this year. Last year, they had high expectations. This year, they have low expectations. Usually, it balances out. I think the Raiders win 7 or 8 games this year, so I'm going to lean towards the over 6.5 for the Las Vegas Raiders. At number 26 in my confidence rankings of the win totals, the Tennessee Titans, I have going over 7.5, but not with a ton of confidence. Recent as earlier this offseason, I had the Tennessee Titans as like a 6, maybe 7 win team. But when they signed DeAndre Hopkins, it shifted how I felt about this team. I think DeAndre Hopkins, even if he's not productive, does a lot for this team. It does a lot for the energy, the vibe surrounding the team, and what I think they think of this team, right? You don't go and sign a veteran receiver as your number one guy to lose, right? I understand that the Titans' offensive line is not very good, but if you're Mike Vrabel and this franchise, you signed D-Hop. You have Derrick Henry near the end of his career. Ryan Tannehill only has so many years left. The defense is absolutely loaded, stacked. It could be one of the best in football. They have an elite pass rush. They get Harold Landry back. They've got a really good secondary. I think much better than last year it will be. Sean Murphy-Bunting was a nice little ad there. And I feel like this team could shock the world and win 8-9 games. Maybe even compete for the division crown. Mike Vrabel is just that good of a coach. I am not going to doubt Mike Vrabel. I am not going to bet against Mike Vrabel. Now, some people might say, oh, you just bet against Mike Tomlin. Hey, there's a difference between playing in the AFC North and the AFC South. I don't view the Titans and the Steelers as all that different. I would say there's not much difference whatsoever other than the fact that the Steelers are the bigger brand and the Steelers are the bigger team. Other than that, and I have less confidence in the Titans' offensive line, but I have more confidence in the Titans from an offensive scheme standpoint, more confidence in their quarterback, more confidence in their running back. I think there's a lot of things to like about Tennessee. I think they can win 8 games. Give me the over on the Titans. At number 25, the Atlanta Falcons. This one's so difficult, man. I'm going under 8.5. But I struggle with this one a lot because I could easily see the Atlanta Falcons winning 9 games and crushing my soul and winning the division. But honestly, I think the winner of this division wins 9 games. So I just feel like 8.5 is a little too high for my liking. If this was 7.5, I think I'd go over because I feel like 8 is the sweet spot for the Atlanta Falcons. And I have recently manipulated my standings to feel like Atlanta maybe has surpassed a team or two in the NFC South, and I can see an explanation for the Falcons to be the best team in this division. The offensive line, the run game, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, special talents on offense, and improved defense. I see it, right? I understand. but me betting Desmond Ridder to win 9 games, I just can't do that with a gun to my head. I can't do that for a big bet, and that's why it's lower on this list, but also I just don't feel confident enough either way. There's a lot of questions with this team. I like Arthur Smith. I like the coaching staff. I can see a world where this team makes the playoffs. I can also see a world where they win 7, where they win 6, where they win 8. So I don't have enough confidence on either side, but I will say that 8.5 is a great number. It's a great number for this team. I will also say that going through all of my rankings for each unit of the Falcons, they ranked much lower than I would have thought in a lot of places. And that also doesn't give me enough confidence to push them over in terms of like me not trying to put any bias into the vision of what I see for this team. There's the vision of the team that I could see being a really tough one to play. And then there's the factual evidence of what I've ranked them in a lot of these videos. And it's a lot lower than what I actually think of the team. So Atlanta is really tough, but I have to lean towards the under. At number 24, the New York Jets, I have going under 9.5. I understand that my initial projection for the Jets was 11 wins, but I think the smart play here is going under with the Jets. I think 9-8 wins. I can see a world where the Jets massively disappoint the public because Aaron Rodgers, first of all, did not play well last year. Like, let's put that for what it is. He did not play well last year. He was conservative. He did not push the ball down the field, and he was not very effective throwing the ball over the middle of the field. He checked the ball down too fast. He wasn't willing to accept younger targets to get them the football. I think the offense is overrated in general. The play caller is bad. Like we saw him in Denver, he was terrible. The offensive line is a mess. They have a ton of injuries already, a ton of chaos. Rodgers doesn't know who the starting 5 is. Breece Hall's already injured. I understand Dalvin Cook's supposed to save the day, but I don't think that's necessarily a great thing. Garrett Wilson's the only receiver I like on the team. The tight ends are vanilla. Cobb stinks at this point, even though I love him. And Allen Lazard is not a number 2 receiver in this league. Like, they don't have a lot of substance on offense. I think this is the worst offense in the division, period. The defense, I think, is really good, really talented, but they don't do a lot that really confuses or gets after opponents from a weekly basis. I think they're easy to play, even though they're super talented, because they're just not very creative. And they have a super tough schedule, especially within the first 6 weeks. So I could see this team winning 9, coming on at the end and making a case for the playoffs. But I think under 9.5 is honestly the intelligent play here. At number 23, the Carolina Panthers going under 7.5 is going to be my pick. And this one really pains me because I was high on the Panthers basically all offseason, and I think you thought that as well dating into this video. But man, I just have seen absolutely zero to confirm my belief about this team in the preseason. This team has scared me in the preseason. Their offensive line, which I ranked as their best unit this offseason, looks bad. Like, it looks like their weakest unit. Aquanu looks like he can't block me. He can't block a soul. Okay? If they can't block, they're not going to score any points because their running back, Miles Sanders, got a lot of money for, running behind the best offensive line in football. The receiving core, you got Adam Thielen. I don't know what I was going to call him, AJ Green or something. And then you've got DJ Chark, who's always injured. You have Terrace Marshall, who hasn't turned into anything. You've got, a rookie in Mingo. I feel bad for Bryce. I don't think Bryce can overcome all this in year 1. Like, I don't think we're going to get a good evaluation. Like, I can see them. They were a miracle they won 7 games last year. They almost won this division last year. And I've been saying that as a positive, but it was a miracle. This team sucked last year. They were really bad for a lot of the year. And with a rookie quarterback, I just don't see him being able to elevate them to 8 or 9 wins to win this division. When the defense, I like it, but it's not good enough to carry an offense that now the offensive line looks like doo-doo. The receiving core is doo-doo. The running game might be doo-doo. They don't have enough for me to really be convinced that they'll win 8 or 9. And that's depressing because I want this team to be good. I just don't think they're there yet. At At number 22, the Detroit Lions going over their win total of 9.5. Someone has to win the NFC North, and I think it could be the Detroit Lions. So I'm going to pick them to win double-digit games in 2023. But them being in the 20s speaks to my confidence level. It's not extremely high. It's high enough, but it's not extremely high. In real life, I would not bet this, to be honest. I think it's a good number. I think the Lions will win 9 to 11 games, maybe 8 games if they disappoint, but I feel like 8 to 11 is their range of outcomes, and it could go disappointing at the beginning of the year, and they could ramp up at the end of the year, and I could see that happening once again, and them finishing 9-8 again, and maybe next year is their actual year to be successful. But when you look at this team, I think they're being elevated because of their fun year last year, their finish last season, and they've got a young roster. They did improve this offseason. And let's be honest, they're being elevated because their division stinks. Aaron Rodgers is gone. Justin Fields can't throw a forward pass. And the Vikings have no defense. So that's why, right? But that's never a good reason to bet on a team. So that is my reasoning for not having them super high. At the same time, they have a great offense. They have the best offense in this division, probably. I think the Vikings are somewhat close, but the Lions did last year. They have a very good offensive line. They have 2 good running backs. I think Gibbs is going to have a huge year this year. Amon-Ra, I'm a big fan of, and I think the defense should improve. Their secondary got a lot better this offseason, adding marquee names in the draft and free agency. So overall, if Aiden Hutchinson can be a stud, this team should win 10, should win 11, but man, I could see it's the Lions. I can see them winning 8 or 9, which is why I'm not so high on them. At number 21, the Green Bay Packers going over 7.5 wins. I think I've convinced myself to put the Packers in the second position in the NFC North, so I have to have them winning more than 7.5 games. I just have really liked what I've seen from Jordan Love, right? I didn't like the Panthers. I haven't liked what I've seen from Carolina. I really like what I've seen from Jordan Love, from the Packers. I feel like they have a chip on their shoulder. I feel like Matt LaFleur is coaching with an edge and with a point to prove. I think he has his young football team playing for him. I think Christian Watson is about to go to Mars this year and put up a huge season. I think Romeo Doubs is better than he gets credit for. I like what Luke Musgrave looks like athletically. The O-line is always good. They've got 2 awesome running backs. Aaron Jones still can play, ladies and gentlemen. And the defense has a ton of talent, especially in the front 7. I think they will dominate teams with their pass rush. Jair Alexander thinks he's the best player in the NFL. Maybe that's a little too high, but I get it. All right, so the Packers, I think they actually might make the playoffs. And that's why, with Jordan Love looking the way he does, they might really make the playoffs. So I have them winning 8 or 9 games and going over their win total of 7.5. This is the first one that I actually feel, pretty confident in. There's some of them below this that I don't feel, super confident in, but confident enough. This one, I'm starting to get closer to confidence. At number 20, the Washington Commanders, over 6.5. There's only one way to play this one, and it's over 6.5. The Commanders won, I think, 8 games last year, and I think the year before that they won 7. The Commanders did not seem to be as good as they were last year. They really didn't, but they were. Their defense was one of the best in football last year, very, 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 very quietly, and their offense was pretty bad, but it should be better this year, right? Eric Bieniemy is there, and I already like the vibe of his play calling so far. The O-line, I think, is a bit of a weakness, but I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's such a weakness where it's going to derail the entire offense. Sam Howell looks like the real deal. Maybe he's not going to be elite or a great quarterback or a top half quarterback, but if he's just better than what they've had in the last 2 to 3 years, that's a W. That's a win. He's athletic. He looks accurate. He looks decisive. He looks confident. They've got great weapons. Terry McLaurin, hopefully healthy. Jahan Dotson, poised for a big year. And Curtis Samuel. And they've got enough at running back. I think their defensive line's healthy, ready to go, ready to gear up and dominate. Their secondary is young and I think really promising. So Washington is a team that the only tough part about this projection and why they're at 20, the division. I like every team in the division. I actually, in fact, have every team in the division going over, which is a scary thought, right? So that is my pause. But I feel like Washington is a good enough roster, a good enough team, even looking at what they've done in the last couple of years. 6.5 just feels low. So I'm going over for the Commanders. At number 19, the Jacksonville Jags. I'm going with the over 9.5. This one, I'm less confident now than I was earlier in the offseason. Really picking apart the Jacksonville roster, right? And what happened last year. Like last year, they were fortunate to win the division. They were fortunate to beat the Chargers. I think we have rose-colored glasses looking at their season last year. If Tannehill doesn't get hurt, they don't make the playoffs. I think I can say that with confidence. So if that happens, I don't think people are looking at them the way they are right now, where a lot of people are thinking Jacksonville will win 11, 12, 13 games and like blow the world out of like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But Jacksonville, I think, can do that. Like, that's the thing. They have the upside with Trevor Lawrence, with Calvin Ridley added. They've got a lot of weaponry. Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk. Doug Peterson's a great football coach. If they can get improvement from some of their young guys on defense, they can really hit the ground running this year and really explode and take over a weak division, the weakest in the AFC, which is why a lot of people will be confident to go over 9.5. But at the same time, I'm not so sure they're better than Tennessee. Like, I'm not exactly sure. Both teams have a weak offensive line. Jacksonville's offensive line is suspect. Like, they don't have the answers entering week 1. And a lot of people are going to have a target on Jacksonville's back with Trevor Lawrence and the hype machine they have. So that's a little concerning for a franchise that isn't good with hype. So I can see the argument both ways. I think that I'm leaning towards the over. I'm leaning towards that they figure it out. I'm leaning towards they do have, the best quarterback, the best, kind of combination between coach and quarterback in this division. They do have the best offense in the division. I think eventually they figure it out. They win the division, and therefore they win 10 games. So I'm going to take them to go over on this win total. At number 18, the Cincinnati Bengals over 11. I have the Bengals going over 11. This is kind of easy. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. The Bengals have Joe Burrow, and if they have Joe Burrow, they're going to win at least 10. So now let's figure out the rest of the team. They still have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon is back. The O-line is better than last year. They've got a lot of depth on the O-line to withstand injuries. And defensively, they've got a stellar D-line, a really good front seven with 2 awesome linebackers. Yeah, the safeties are a little bit concerning, but the corners are better than last year. So everything adds up to them being just as good as last year, if not better. I think they won more than 11 last year. Yeah, the division is tough, but again, Joe Burrow, I'm going to take the over. Self-explanatory. The next team is the Philadelphia Eagles. I have the Eagles. This is a very high number, and that's the only pause is 11.5. But I'm still going over. Okay, I'm still going over. I think they'll win 12. So maybe I'm threading the needle. I wouldn't probably bet this just because the number is so high, and there's probably not good enough odds to really go after it. But the way I look at it is the Eagles have the best offense in the NFL. They play in the weakest conference in the NFL. I think Jalen Hurts is the quarterback 1 in fantasy this year. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the O-line, like they've got a good enough defense. I understand 2 new coordinators, all that noise. They are coming off a Super Bowl loss. There is a Super Bowl hangover. It is a real thing. But I think they're still talented enough in a weak conference to win 12, maybe even 13. So I think going over is still the smart play. I just believe in Jalen Hurts and the core Nick Sirianni of this football team. At number 16, the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going over 10.5. I like the Ravens this year. I've been pretty clear about that. I think the only way they go under is if Lamar gets injured, which is possible. Okay, it's possible. But I'm going to bet with you right now that it doesn't happen 3 years in a row where Lamar gets seriously injured and misses a stretch or a month of time, okay? Maybe he misses a game. But Lamar, he's going to be healthy. He's got the best weapons of his career. That's a big plus. He's got one of the best O-lines of his career. I'd probably say the second best behind 2019. He's got a great coach, a great kicker. The defense is very good and finished last season very strong. Keep in mind, I've said this once, I'll say it again. This team lost to Cincinnati basically because of a fumbled play on the 1 yard line. That's they in the playoffs. This team made the playoffs last year. They're gonna win 11. They might win 12. They might even win the division. Lamar might win MVP too. I'm going over 10.5. At number 15, the New Orleans Saints. I'm going under 9.5 with my bet. I think the Saints are one of those two teams that I'm contemplating winning this division in the NFC South. But like I've said already in this video, I think the winner of the NFC South wins 9 games. I don't see any of these teams. I mean, the winner last year won 8. Okay, so that would be an upgrade from last year. So don't take that as an offense. Like, the Bucks won 8 games last year. So let's say Derek Carr is 2 wins better than what they had last year. That means I think they go, what? They go 9 or 10 at the most. So I feel like Derek Carr should be a little bit better than he was with the Raiders last year, which, by the way, was bad. Like, he was worse, according to PFF grades, than Andy Dalton on your team last year. And I think Chris Olave will be excellent. I think he's going to break out. The O-line's pretty solid. Alvin Kamara should be good enough. Michael Thomas, love to see him back. The defense, I am concerned about the defensive line, but I think they have enough good pieces. They've been pretty strong overall. Like, I think they can win enough to compete for the division, but I have no confidence in double digits. Like, again, defense is old. Derek Carr bad last year. Like, this team wasn't great last year. Like, there's a lot of reasons. Schedule's easy, so that's, I guess, a concern for me going under, but I just don't see enough upside with this team. This team feels very, very mid. There's not a lot of upside with this team, so I'm going under 9.5. At number 14, the Buffalo Bills, over 10.5. This is disrespectful. I think they should be at least 11, if not 11.5. I understand the division's really tough. You've got the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and I understand that there's a lot of fanfare for Miami and the Jets. And that might be the reason this is at 10.5, to get more bets to entice an under for people. But the Bills are disrespected. Like, this is Josh Allen, one of the top 3, without a doubt, quarterbacks in football, with Stephon Diggs. They drafted Dalton Kincaid in the first round. They've still got Gabe Davis. The O-line is better than last year. Like, Osiris Torrance, I think he's going to start right away and improve the O-line. They've got better depth. They added Connor McGovern inside. I think that O-line will be better. Like, I think James Cook is ready to break out at running back for them. The best running back they've had in quite some time, in my opinion. The defense, I think, is stacked. Like, I know they're old, but if Von Miller plays anywhere close to what he was playing at last year, if Micah Hyde returns to anywhere close to what he was playing at before that, like, and Tre'Davious White's going to be healthy this year, like, I just, like, they added Taylor Rapp. They added a lot of guys on the defensive line. They added some good players. Leonard Floyd, right? Like, this defense is deeper, better than last year. The offense is going to be just as good. They had so much go wrong for them last year with Hamlin, right? And with the injuries they had. I mean, give me a break. Like, this team's going to win 11 games. So give me the over. And I think they'll still win the division. At number 13, we have the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going with the under 8.5. And this one, starting to get to really confident territory. Like, the Vikings just keep getting worse in my eyes. Like, they let go of Dalvin Cook. That tells you what they think of their chances this year. Like, you don't get rid of a running back that just had 1,000 yards if you think you're going to be a good team, okay? I understand they could save a little bit of money. Where's that money going to, okay, pal? Where's it going? The defense absolutely blows. You can't even name 2 corners on their team, I guarantee you. Okay, the safeties, Harrison Smith's getting older than dirt. Marcus Davenport will probably be good for 6 games and get hurt. Danielle Hunter's a stud, I'll give you that. Brian Flores isn't going to fix everything here. Byron Murphy isn't going to fix everything. They're such a bad defense. The offense, they're good, but like, statistically speaking, they weren't even that good last year. They were just really good in the key times, like the key moments. The fourth quarter, late in games to win and be clutch. Like, people are going to blame Cousins for winning 8 games this year, but it's not his fault. And I think 8.5 is too high. I understand they won like 12 or 13 last year. No chance they win double digits this season. I just don't see it in any situation, in any world. Like, their offense is talented. It's a tougher schedule. It's a number one schedule. Defense is terrible. The offense, I just don't think it's enough. Like, I like Hawkinson, love Justin Jefferson, all these guys. It's just not enough. I don't think Cousins can repeat 8 game-winning drives 2 years in a row. It's not going to happen. At number 12, the Kansas City Chiefs. I got going over 11.5. If you think I'm going to be an absolute dummy and come onto YouTube and say the Chiefs are going to win less than 11 games, then you're drunk, okay? That's all I got to say. Mahomes, Andy Reid, sign Chris Jones. We're good. We got Travis Kelce. One more prime year for him. Let's get it rolling. Chiefs win at least 12. They're going over. That's easy. Next. After that, we've got the Chicago Bears as the number 11. I'm going under their win total of 7.5. Confident in this one. Justin Fields can't throw a forward pass. I don't care how many 2-yard screens he throws for touchdowns. It's not going to lead to victories this year. The defense, still not good enough in my opinion. The defensive line is still suspect. I get it. They signed Yannick Ngakoue. Great. You want a round of applause? What do you want? A gold star? A cookie? What do you want? The linebackers they signed, I know they spent a lot of money there. The linebackers, okay? You might as well sign running backs, all right? The secondary, they're young. They're flawed. I'm not sure. I like Brisker. Shout out. Offensively, I don't think you can pass the ball. I don't think the Chicago Bears will pass the ball effectively. That is why they will win less than 7.5 games. It's just that simple. Entering the top 10 most confident win totals for 2023. You might as well call these best bets for 2023. The Houston Texans will win less than 6.5 games. I get it. We all want the Texans to win. We all think the Texans are improved. And I agree. CJ Stroud should be better than Davis Mills. That being said, he's a rookie quarterback. DeMeco Ryans should be better than Lovie Smith, who only called cover 2 every single play. But he's a rookie head coach. He's a rookie head coach who comes from Kyle Shanahan, propping up every other coach that has ever been on his staff. Just look at the guy in New York, okay? Then you have an offensive line that I think is pretty good. Pierce, pretty good, okay? I like the running game. But you're not going to win 7 games just running Pierce. You got to throw to somebody. Are we counting on rookie Tank Dell? Are we counting on, off of a absolutely terrible situation, John Mechie to be the guy? Robert Woods on his last legs, older than dirt. Who's the receiver here? Nico Collins hasn't done anything in his career. Who is the guy for CJ Stroud? A rookie. Again, a rookie. Okay? So they have no offense. They have nothing other than a running game defensively. And I'm not trying to be harsh. They're not winning 7 games. They'll probably win 5 or 6. I'm just going to be realistic. The defense still, I don't think Will Anderson is as good as the pick. So I think that definitely deflates my value of the defensive line. Although I like the pickup of Sheldon Rankins, I respect Jerry Hughes and all those boys. The linebacker position is better. Again, this team improved. Jimmy Ward, it's better, right? I'm saying all these things. Everything's better here. Derek Stingley, I don't know. Wait and see with him. Like, I think this team needs another season. This team needs another season. This win total is too high. I could see this team winning 5 or 6 games in a weak division. I do not see 7. I do not see 8. I have not seen enough from the preseason. I think this team still needs one more rebuilding year to get to where they want to be with CJ Stroud. So under the Texans, 6.5. At number 9, the Denver Broncos, under 8.5. The people betting on the Broncos this year, they've had so many things go wrong already. Jerry Jeudy just got hurt. I had a hamstring injury. I tore my hamstring. Bro, that is not easy to come back from. I'll tell you that much. And he's by far their best receiver. Courtland Sutton, I think Devontae Parker is faster than him. And I don't even know if you understand what I mean. You understand what I mean. And then we've got Marvin Mims is now the number 1 receiver. Marvin Mims. Tim Patrick hurt again. KJ Hamler hurt again. Russell Wilson looks terrible. The offensive line, Mike McGlinchey's overrated, but I like the rest of the guys, okay? I'll give you that. Javonte is coming back from like a serious injury, and if he's not the running back, it's P. Ryan. This offense stinks. Stinks. If Sean Payton wins 9 games with this team, I myself will induct him to the Hall of Fame in a video after this season. The defense is like pretty good. Like I've said this many times. They're above average, but they're not stellar. Like they're not winning you games by themselves. Mile High gives you an advantage. You add a win or two based on that. But man, this is a tough conference. They are not winning 9 games. 8.5, it's nearly a lock. It's hard to say a lock. It's close. It is really close that they go under 8.5. This team is once again overrated. At number 8, I have the Indianapolis Colts going under 6.5 wins, and I feel even more confident after just doing the commentary for their last preseason game, watching Richardson and the Colts play and get their butts whooped by the third-string Philadelphia Eagles while they were playing their starters deep into the second quarter. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. I think their defense is going to stink. Their secondary is terrible. I don't think they could cover me one-on-one. I mean, their front 7 is good, but their pass rush is kind of less than stellar. Very good against the run. Good linebacker play, not enough pass rushing prowess, doesn't really lead to wins in the NFL today. They're kind of trying to lose. They're putting Jonathan Taylor on the trade block. They're looking for trade options for him. If he's gone, I mean, they have no hope. Michael Pittman already got hurt in that game. Their receiving core is slow. Richardson is going to be a work in progress. I'm not saying I'm giving up on him. I think he has talent. But man, year 1, it's going to be tough. Like, it should look like Justin Fields did last year, where he's struggling to throw, struggling to find a guy open, probably holds on the ball too long. That hurts the offensive line, hurts the efficiency of the offense. They get sacks a lot, but I feel like he's going to run for a ton of yards, probably be good for fantasy, but not for real life. This team's not winning 7 games. They're not winning 7 games. I think the Texans could be better than them, and I already expressed how bad, like, the Texans are, so I feel like the Colts are a bad football team. They're not winning 7 games. You have to be pretty good to win 7 in the AFC this year. At number 7, the Los Angeles Rams are absolutely, without a doubt, going under 6.5 wins. The Rams are terrible. Does anybody realize how bad the Rams are? Like, legitimately, you can name 5 players on this team, maybe 6, and then you forget the rest of the team. Like Stafford, Donald, Kupp, Van Jefferson, Cam Akers, Tyler Higbee. There's like 10 guys at the most that most people would know. And it's all on offense. And then after that, you forget every single player on the team. They have nobody. They're a bunch of no-names. On top of that, Cooper Kupp coming into the season with an injury already. Matthew Stafford going to get hurt. I want him to retire. I wanted him to retire this offseason. He's going to get hurt. The offensive line is not good. Sean McVay is a great coach. They are not winning 7 games. Their defense is terrible. They have no one. They're all late round draft picks. There's no chance. There's almost 0 chance for the Rams to win 7 games. They have to play the Niners and the Seahawks 2 times each. They're going to lose all those games. They're bad. Really bad. At number 6, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers under 6.5. You do not go from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield and win 7 games after you won 8 last year. It's simple math. I get it. You went from an actual offensive coordinator to Byron Leftwich, right? Byron Leftwich last year was one of the worst performances of a coach I've ever seen in my life. There's a reason he's not in the NFL right now, okay? But I like Chris Godwin. I like Mike Evans. In fact, I love those guys, okay? Though that was like my team for 3 years. This team is not winning 7 games. They lost the greatest player ever to play football, people. They're not winning 7 games. They have Baker Mayfield, who's missing people wide open without a cover man in practice. And their defense is kind of old now. Like, I think they did some nice things this offseason. I will be rooting for them. they are not going over 6.5 wins with the worst coach and the worst quarterback in the NFL. It's not happening. Entering the top 5 best bets, most confident win totals of the season, the Arizona Cardinals under 4.5. The Arizona Cardinals might not win a single game this year. I would not be surprised if the Cardinals won 0 games. This Cardinals team is on par with that Texans team the last couple of years, with the Browns in whatever year that was, the Lions in 2008. This team sucks. And Kyler Murray is going to be hurt and probably not going to play this year. Like, I understand people think he's going to come back after 6 weeks. You think he's going to come back after 6 weeks if they don't have a single win? You really think Kyler Murray, who'd rather be playing Call of Duty, is going to be suiting up for the Arizona Cardinals? Their defense sucks. They have no pass rush. Their best pass rusher's name is Cameron Thomas. Does anyone know who that is? Their corners blow. Budda Baker is by far their best player. Marquise Brown can't catch a cold in the preseason. James Conner, James Conner. Give me a break. This team stinks. I ranked them number 32 in like 4 different categories in the NFL. That's embarrassing. I had them as number 32 offense, number 32 defense, number 32 coach. What else do you need? How are they going to win 5 games? This is like free money. At number 4, the Dallas Cowboys over 10.5. The Dallas Cowboys are the best team that nobody wants to say is the best team. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys are damn good. This is the best Dallas Cowboys team I've seen in a long time on paper. And they've had a lot of talent over the last few years. Dak Prescott, healthy. Remember Dak Prescott missed like 5 games last year and they won 12 games? He's their starting quarterback. He's a top 10 to 12 quarterback in the league. They had a guy, what's his name? I don't even remember. He wasn't even good. He did nothing. He handed the ball off and they played defense. They have Micah Parsons, who's Lawrence Taylor reincarnated. They added Stephon Gilmore to Trayvon Diggs. They've got a great safety duo. They have the best secondary in football. They've got good enough linebackers. If there's a concern, it might be that group. They added Mozzie Smith to this defensive line with DeMarcus Lawrence and Dorrance Armstrong and stud after stud Dante Fowler. The offensive line has 2 Hall of Famers on it. I think Tyler Smith's looking like a real good player. I'm not concerned about the loss of Dalton Schultz. Brandon Cooks is going to be a blessing for them this season. Michael Gallup's healthy. Tony Pollard's getting all the carries, baby, to the moon. The Cowboys are winning 12 or 13 games this season. My third win total is the New England Patriots going over 7 wins. Patriots at 7 is absolutely wild. This team was awful last season, and they won more than 7 games. They had Matt Patricia. This is all I have to say. I don't have to go through how good the defense is. It might be the best in football. I don't have to go through the fact that they have Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest coach ever to coach anything. I don't have to go through the fact that Bill O'Brien is a really good offensive coordinator and he's going to make Mac Jones and the entire offense better. I don't have to go through any of that. All I have to say is Matt Patricia was the offensive coordinator and they won more than this last year. That's all I have to say, and I'll leave it at that, and that I'm just going to move on, okay? At number 2, the San Francisco 49ers over 10.5. I don't care what the number is. 13, 14, give me the over. I don't care. 49ers are going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're going to win 13 or 14 games. They might win the Super Bowl. Believe in Brock Purdy. This is the best coach in football with the best defense in football. They've got arguably the greatest weapon group in football with Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. Trent Williams might as well be a weapon, same as Kyle Juszczyk. The only concern about this team is the offensive line. Other than that, and I don't think they'll be that bad. I think they'll be average. But that is a concern on this team, an average unit, because everywhere else is loaded to the absolute top, okay? The defense is going to dominate. They're in a bad conference in a division where they get 4 free wins versus 2 of the worst teams in football. And they have two quarterbacks that I think can win them games. Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. They're going to win 11. They're going to win more than 11. That's why I have them at number 2. And the number 1 win total bet of 2023 is the Seattle Seahawks over 8.5. The Seahawks will make the playoffs with double-digit wins. 8.5 is disrespectful. Pete Carroll is a top 10 coach, if not top 5 coach in this game. Geno is a top 10 to 12 quarterback. He is legit. They have a elite receiving core. They have an improving up-and-coming offensive line. Kenneth Walker might be the most underappreciated running back in the NFL. Draft him in fantasy. He is going to score a lot of touchdowns. And the defense is going to be so much improved from last year. They have a real pass rusher on the interior in Draymond Jones. Bobby Wagner's going to help out in the middle. Julian Love's going to help out at safety. And Devin Witherspoon is a game changer at corner. This team improved a ton. They're going to win at least 9. They won 9 last year. They're way better than last year. And they have a weaker division than last year. Give me the Seahawks to win double-digit games. Those are my confidence rankings for every win total in the NFL and my best bets for 2023 in terms of the win totals. Let me know yours in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.